Hello, and welcome back to the final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. For those of you on YouTube, you might be seeing my face for the first time. I hope you are, because I've recorded this with video, and if you're not, that's a bit of a nightmare. But I thought, hey, let's level up. Let's add some video. For some reason, you might want to see me talk actually in person. Well, not in person, you're not with me, but you might want to see my face talk and not just listen to it. I don't know, some people work better that way. So welcome to the first video version of the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, it's just same as usual. Hopefully there's no massive difference. So let's get on with it, shall we? I'm not making a big deal out of this video. There's some nice flowers behind me, though. That's nice, aren't they? Right, so today we're looking at Sonnet 98. And I thought, well, let's just start with a little fact that I heard about Shakespeare. Someone was talking about him the other day, and they said that his grave... I did fact check this, by the way. It's not just someone talking crap. They said that Shakespeare's grave actually had... his gravestone had a curse on it. It was like, "Don't move my bones." Which I thought is quite a weird thing. Usually, don't gravestones sort of have, "In loving memory, you were a great dad, great husband." It's not quite so common to have a curse and please don't move my body. Also, I mean, who the hell wants to move his body? I guess grave snatchers were a thing back in the day, and you'd go into the grave and take some nice jewels and stuff like that. So maybe that's what he was worried about. But at that point, you're dead, mate. So it doesn't matter. Move on. Anyway, that's my little interesting fact about Shakespeare. I'll leave a little thing in the comments to say what it actually said on the gravestone, because that might be interesting for some people. Right, let's take a listen to Sonnet 98. Sonnet 98. From you have I been absent in the spring, when proud-pied April, dressed in all his trim, hath put a spirit of youth in everything. That heavy Saturn laughed and leaped with him. Yet nor the lays of birds, nor the sweet smell of different flowers in odour and in hue, could make me any summer's story tell, or from their proud lap pluck them where they grew. Nor did I wonder as the lily's white, nor praise the deep vermilion in the rose. They were but sweet, but figures of delight, drawn after you, you pattern of all those. Yet seemed it winter still, and you away, as with your shadow I with these did play. Wow, I got through it. Whew, it's actually a bit scary doing that on video, because in audio form, I'm not going to keep talking about the video, because if you're still listening in audio form, it's a bit, exclusionary. But in audio form, I can snip, and I can do loads and loads of takes, and I can put it all together. But in this, it was quite... my heart was going there, so it's good to see that I could get through it. I can recite a Shakespeare sonnet from start to finish, which is a good thing considering I've done 98 of these. So, if you remember, in Sonnet 97, Shakespeare was talking about the seasons, of course, and he's talking about them again in Sonnet 98. He's talking about spring, and we know from past experience with Shakespeare's sonnets that he loves spring. He does. There's no two ways about it. Spring and summer, always great. Autumn, often fine. Winter, terrible. Winter's always terrible in Shakespeare's world. It's always bleak, it's gloomy, he hates it, it reminds him of death. And similar in this sonnet 98. He does talk about winter right at the end there, but he's talking about his absence from his lover in spring, and how spring is lovely. It's full of youth, and it's brilliant, and it's not quite summer. He's quite clear about that, but the flowers are blooming, all of that, but it's not quite the same. It's actually it's almost like an imitation of spring, because you, Shakespeare's lover, you're not around, you're not there, you weren't there for spring. So, I could sort of enjoy it, but I couldn't really enjoy it because you weren't there. So that's the sort of essence of Sonnet 98. But now I think it's about time we break this down line by line and work out what the hell Shakespeare was talking about in Sonnet 98. So we start with, "From you have I been absent in the spring, when proud pied April, dressed in all his trim, hath put a spirit of youth in everything, that heavy Saturn laughed and leapt with him." So that's 4 lines. It's not quite line by line, but again, as I like to say, it's all one thought really. And he's saying, I've been absent, I've been away from you in the spring. When proud pied is a nice term, isn't it? And I think that's sort of saying, I think pied is sort of hues. So the colours of April, the sort of lovely hue, colour, vibrancy of April is out and about, dressed in all its trim. So sort of referring to April as personifying April in a way. I can imagine April stepping out of the house. It's got a lovely garters on, got some yellow stockings, maybe a little petticoat, right word, and maybe a little hat, feathering. He's looking lovely. Hath put a spirit of youth in everything, so he's making everything useful, and even Saturn, all right, heavy Saturn, laughed and leapt with him. So Saturn's there. April's stepped out of the house, looking fantastic, making everything youthful. Saturn's joined him, and Saturn is usually a bit of a downer, but in this case, Saturn's actually having a great time. Saturn's having a laugh and leaping about, skipping about with April. And I think he's used Saturn here because Saturn is the god of old age and gloominess. So he is famously not a fun guy to have around. But in this case, he's having a great time. We continue with, "Yet nor the lays of birds, nor the sweet smell of different flowers in odour and in hue, could make me any summer's story tell." He's saying, but neither the songs of birds, so bird song, nor the sweet smell of all the lovely spring flowers could make me feel like it's summer, or inspire me in a way to pick the flowers that are in their flower beds. So, okay, the birds are singing, there's a lovely smell of the flowers, but that is not convincing me that it's summer, all right? And I'm not going to go plucking any flowers because of it. Which, I think this is quite a confusing one, isn't it? Because we know it's not summer. We know it's spring. He's literally been talking about it being spring. So I don't know why he's getting carried away thinking it's summer here. If I'm being honest, I'm not fully sure what he's getting at. But it's a nice way of putting it, whatever he's saying. He's saying it's not summer yet. I'm not going to go picking these flowers because it's still spring, they're still growing. And then he continues with, "Nor did I wonder at the lily's white, nor praise the deep vermilion in the rose." So I didn't praise, I wasn't going, oh, look at those lovely white lilies. Look at those lovely red roses. He wasn't doing that. He was seeing them, but he wasn't praising them. He wasn't actually amazed by them. He wasn't inspired by them. Okay, thanks for pointing that out, Shakespeare. Thanks for saying that you didn't actually think the lilies were that white or the roses were that red. You were just sort of experiencing them in a way. Just sort of they were there. You were out and they were there. And then he continues with, they were but sweet, but figures of delight, drawn after you, pattern of all those. So now Shakespeare's lover's coming into play. So they were only sweet. They were only, well, real figures, sort of drawings, paintings of delight. So they weren't actually the real thing. They were just drawn essentially in imitation of you. So they were sort of representing you. And really, when Shakespeare was out there and he was looking at those roses, looking at those lilies, he was going, oh, yeah, I think of you, my lover. And these are not you. You are far superior to these. And these are just imitations of you. And in a way, you are the representation of spring. I mean, you are all these lovely things. You are youth, which he's talked about. Remember those first 20 sonnets where he's talking about youth and he's obsessed with people being young? Well, he's bringing it back here in a way. He's saying you are youth and vigour, and that is spring. And there's similarities there. And spring's actually an imitation of you. You're better than spring. So that's pretty good, isn't it? And now, of course, we're on to the final couplet. Yet seemed it winter still, and you away, as with your shadow I with these did play. So here I think he's saying, although it was spring out there, and when I stepped out it was spring, there were lovely flowers and the birds and all that, but it seemed like winter because you were away. And look, I did sort of go out and mess around with the flowers and have a good time in a way. Not a good time, but I sort of did experience spring. I smelt some flowers maybe and stuff like that. But they were just a reflection of you, and in a way they reminded me of you. So he didn't actually have an amazing spring because his lover was away. That's the essential story of Sonnet 98. He goes on a real journey. He brings in summer for some mad reason. I don't fully know why he's talking about summer. If you know, then please help me. But and then of course he's saying, but really it was like winter, and as we know, winter is Shakespeare's least favourite season. He hates winter. And as is evident in this final couplet again. So that is Sonnet 98 in a nutshell. It feels to me a little bit confused, if I'm being quite honest. If I was going to give some feedback to Shakespeare on this one, I would say maybe cut the bit about it not being summer yet, because you've been talking about it being spring, so you know it's spring, so I don't know what you're talking about there. I like the stuff about you bringing your lover in. It gets a little bit confusing when you start sort of referring to your lover is the reflection of spring, but I like it. And then the final couplet, that's a zinger. Keep that. You know, we know now that you don't like winter, so saying that it felt like winter is quite a nice way of putting it. It felt bleak, it felt sad. But overall, not one of my favourites. If this is your favourite, I'm really sorry, and tell me why. I'll be interested to know. I think there's some nice imagery in there, and we definitely know that Shakespeare loves spring. He loves its youthfulness and all the flowers and everything, but it's not as good as his lover, and that's the key takeaway. Okay, I think it's about time we put this to our story. And if you remember last week, Shakespeare had taken Christopher Marlowe to his holiday cottage, and he basically locked him up there. He'd popped him in there and locked it up and left him, returned to London, because, of course, as we know, Christopher Marlowe was a sex addict, and he needed to be locked away in Shakespeare's eyes. that was the best way of helping him. The jury's out on whether that is the best way of helping someone with an addiction. And Shakespeare's back in London, and he sent a messenger, a little boy. Well, he wasn't even a messenger, actually, if we're being honest. It was just a boy in the street, and Shakespeare employed him, as he likes to do. And he sent this boy on this big journey to the holiday cottage to deliver Sonnet 97, which was describing Christopher Marlowe as the seasons and all of that jazz, and saying that he misses him and all of that. Being away from him's tough. Christopher Marlowe has just read that, and let's find out what happens next, shall we? Christopher Marlowe finishes reading Sonnet 97. He's fuming. He starts pacing up and down the kitchen, up and down the living room, up and down the stairs. He's angry, and rightly so. Shakespeare, how could you do this to me? You keep saying that you miss me, but you were the one who put me here. The days went by, and Marlowe slowly became more and more frustrated. He wished that he could, well, have some sex, of course. But more than that, he wanted love, he wanted interaction. He missed his friends, he missed his family. The days turned into weeks. And eventually, after 2 months of being in Shakespeare's holiday cottage, he thought, I'm going to have to try and get out of here because I don't think Shakespeare's going to come and get me. It's interesting that it took him 2 months to realise that he might need to try and escape, and he hadn't tried before, which just shows that maybe he's a bit on the dim side. But nevertheless, he started figuring out an escape plan. And eventually he thought, well, there's windows in this cottage, of course. And windows, if I remember correctly, are made of glass. And in this cottage there are some objects which I do believe to be hard. So if I use one of these objects on said window, I might be able to break it and get out. So with that, he picks up the hardest object he can see, which is a candlestick. And the candlestick has a big metal end to it, and he uses that to smash one of the windows in his kitchen. And he reaches his hand through and unlocks it from the outside. Yes, that window had an outside lock that Shakespeare had put on earlier, of course. He unlocked the window and opened it. He squeezed his body through. He did get cut a few times, and there was a bit of blood, but he thought, it's worth it. I need to get out of here. I need to escape. Meanwhile, back in London, Shakespeare's in front of the fire. His feet are up, and he's thinking about Marlowe, and he's thinking, oh, maybe in a couple of months I should let him free. Because this spring has been, it hasn't been like other springs. I usually love spring. Spring's a great season. But when I went out earlier to Vauxhall Gardens and saw all the flowers, I thought, it's not doing it for me. And actually, those flowers just reminded me of my love for Christopher Marlowe. Oh, you know what I should do? I should actually write a little sonnet about this. He'd like that. And maybe I'll send it to him. Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, I'd send him a nice sonnet about how he is like spring. Oh, that would be fun. And so, with that, he pulls out his little quill, dips it in some ink, and writes Sonnet 98. But just as he is preparing to send Sonnet 98 to Christopher Marlowe, using another bloody boy from the street probably, he hears a knock on the door. He pauses, he looks up, he thinks, no one usually knocks at this time of day. It was midday. Shakespeare doesn't have many visitors. There's a knock again. It's louder. He hears some sort of clawing at the door. And then more banging, slamming this time, and eventually the door's kicked down, and standing there, silhouetted against the sunlight, is Christopher Marlowe. And he says, "Shakespeare, you arsehole. You really are scum of the earth." And Shakespeare goes, "Marlowe? What are you doing here?" And Marlowe says, "I escaped, Shakespeare. I escaped. You locked me up. You could go to prison for this." And Shakespeare says, "I could do. Or we just pretend that it never happened." And Marlowe says, "You're having a laugh, aren't you? I was wasting away in there." And Shakespeare said, "It was for your own good. It was for your addiction. You know you needed it." Marlowe says, "I didn't need it, Shakespeare. I've got self-control, you know." And Shakespeare says, "I don't think you do. Remember what happened with the maitre d' and all the other men? It's ridiculous." Both of them start crying. They hug each other. And then Marlowe hits Shakespeare in the face and says, "Never do that again. Never ever do that again." Shakespeare says, I'm sorry, Marlowe, I'm sorry, but I think you needed it." He had tears in his eyes. And he said, "You don't know how hard it's been for me, actually, Marlowe. I've been away from you." And Marlowe says, "Yes, because you locked me up." And Shakespeare says, "No, I know, but it's actually been really tough. I've been out here in spring and it's so lovely, and I usually really, really like it, but this time it's not quite hit the same. And it actually made me want to write a sonnet. And I did that. And I think you should hear it because I think it's quite beautiful." Marlowe says, "Well, you've got a lot of making up to do, and I don't think a sonnet is going to cut it." And Shakespeare says, "Yes, all right, I'll take you to dinner as well, or something like that. I'll buy you something. I'll buy you a necklace or something like that. But also, you need to listen to this. Okay?" Marlowe says, "Fine. Spit it out." So with that, Shakespeare retrieves Sonnet 98 from his back pocket and reads. Sonnet 98. I've been away from you during the spring, when proudly coloured April, dressed up really nice and smart, made everyone feel youthful. So much that even old gloomy Saturn laughed and skipped about. But neither the birdsong nor the sweet smell of different flowers could make me feel like it was summer, or pluck those flowers up. I wasn't blown away by how white the lilies were, and I didn't praise the deep red of the roses. They were only sweet, only paintings of delight, drawn in imitation of you, the source of their beauty. It seemed like it was still winter with you away. I played with the flowers, which were a reflection of you. So there we have it, Sonnet 98. It seems like they've kind of made up already, which is nuts, considering that Shakespeare did lock Christopher Marlowe in his holiday cottage. But maybe Marlowe realises it was for the best. It was for his own good. But find out about the aftermath next week on the final couplet. Until then, bye.